Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Spanish United Radio. I'm your host, Enrique Sanchez, founder and director of Spanish United. And this afternoon, we have a very special guest. Would you be enough to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Hey everybody, my name is Rosa Clemente. I am a organizer, producer, independent journalist, and a professor.
Welcome. Thank you for being on the show, Rosa.
Thank you for having me.
Likewise, we had spoken in the last couple of emails. I am curious because I know that you were previously running for the Green Party a couple of years ago. And I saw one of your interviews where you were with Mark Hill and the other lady by the name of her name I think her name was Pilar Cleveland. She's a Cuban
I don't
lady.
remember. Yeah, I don't remember her name either.
It's all good. So anyway, we would like to know about what exactly is that you do in terms of helping the Puerto Rican Latino community and how Hispanics can have more inclusivity, especially now with the turn of events with this current election. How can Hispanic people be more proactive with their rights?
Yeah, I mean, all my work for over 30 years has been an organizer and working closely with the African American community, um, and Caribbean folks, because Puerto Rico obviously is in the Caribbean.
Right.
You know,
Correct.
feedback on my end?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Did you hear feedback?
No, that must have been
Okay.
like the background music. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Um, just repeat the question again. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that in terms of inclusivity for the Hispanic community, especially with the previous with this current election that came and went, how can Hispanic people and Puerto Ricans in particular take a more proactive approach in protecting their rights and having more inclusivity? That's my that's my question to you.
Yeah, so around inclusivity, I mean, I don't, and especially Afro-Latino people, we don't use the word Hispanic just because the actual word means descendant of Spain. And at least for me, I don't claim like my colonizer, and
Right.
so language is really important, and it has changed because definitely when you go like to Texas or New Mexico, those Arizona, those part of the countries with high populations of us as a larger like Latino grouping, they still use that word, but
Mhm.
we spent a lot of time, especially when I was in undergraduate, like pushing against that and, accepting, especially as Puerto Ricans, that we're African descendants. There are those of us who are Black Puerto Ricans who are African descendants. Puerto Rico doesn't have the same relationship to the rest of Latin America because we're geopolitically colonized
Mhm.
people, and we're a colony of the United States. So Puerto Ricans and African Americans have always worked super close together because both of us are citizens. We're treated like second class citizens. So as it regards Puerto Rico, I mean, I'm Boricua. We've been trying, since 1898 to be rid of the colonizer and the colonization and the United States administration in Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
And there's a whole new fervor right now where some Puerto Ricans who lived here, especially after Hurricane Maria, have repatriated back to Puerto Rico. So the diaspora alone, it's always been able to go back and forth. And after New York City, Pennsylvania, and Orlando or Orlando, Florida, and Pennsylvania has a lot of Boricuas, Puerto Ricanos.
Mhm.
So post Hurricane Maria, there's a whole new political identity and more people intergenerationally more and more people in Puerto Rico want to fight for independence more than I've ever seen in my life. And, you know, after Hurricane Maria, and then we got rid of the governor and Jose Joe, and recently the election, the Alianza party won, and that's definitely a very good thing, you know. And obviously, after the remarks that Donald Trump's MAGA rally that he had a
Mhm.
couple weeks before the election, well, actually the week before, and you know, calling Puerto Rico trash. If you see the response, that's how we roll, you know,
Mhm.
especially when you're gonna disrespect, you know, not only our island but our people, you know. And obviously Donald Trump is the biggest disrespecter because he went down there and threw paper towels at the people. And I think him doing that and just us being able to help ourselves after Hurricane Maria, and when I mean ourselves, ourselves, because
Mhm.
other countries wanted to support us, but they didn't want to, the United States government didn't want to suspend the Jones Act. And the Jones Act basically means like to get goods or help to get goods to Puerto Rico, you have to get the goods and then they have to be uploaded in Florida, then have to be loaded again to get
Right.
to Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
That's why like
because of the
cars,
Jones Act. The
yeah,
Jones
because of
Act.
the Jones Act. And they suspended it a little bit, but the thing is that you know, even that it has just put, especially younger people now, an increasing number of Black Puerto Rican identifying that way,
Mhm.
really allowed the island to be self-determining. And what happened is, regardless of what happened with Maria, regardless of what that comedian said, Puerto Rico's moving more to self-determination and doing for self.
Right.
That's exactly it makes it now under people now understand that eventually like we're going to be free. And a lot of
Right.
people for a long time, decades, because of being colonized by the United States, not only did they colonize our land, they colonized our minds. But a new generation is like, nah, you know, I want to be with my people, I want to help. And what I was trying to say during about Hurricane Maria is that all these countries wanted to help us and they weren't allowed to
Right.
help us because of the Jones Act. So like whatever people think of Venezuela, they wanted to supply oil. Whatever people wanted to think about Cuba, they wanted to send doctors. There were
Right.
African nations and other islands in the Caribbean that wanted to help, just as Puerto Ricans when there have been disasters in the part of in the Caribbean,
Right.
Puerto
Right.
Ricans have always
Yeah, many people don't
yeah.
realize that with the Jones Act, even though
Yeah,
Puerto Ricans were given U.S. citizenship, Puerto Rico has a lot of restrictions. So Puerto Rico
yeah,
truly is not a truly autonomous territory. You know, I'm Puerto Rican. My mom's from Puerto Rico, and I could tell you firsthand. You know, I was there a while ago that the situation there is a mess. And a little bit about what I do in Spanish United is that I advocate for Hispanic people, Latinos in the United States, because I feel that more than ever, because of Hispanophobia and prejudice that many Hispanics have been facing on a daily basis, it's very important that Hispanic people, Latino people unite, because I feel that as a group and as a collective, we could do a lot more because we are the most persecuted people politically, economically, demographically in the United States. And I feel that with the turn of events that's happening right now with the current climate, is going to hurt a lot of our people. So, like for example, I do a lot of outreach work with many different Hispanic groups. I work with many allies of the Hispanic community that are Chinese, Persian, etc. Because I feel that the more allies we have, the better. And one thing that I strive is one of our mottos is culture over color. Because you brought up an interesting point because even though you have Puerto Ricans that are of African descent, Puerto Rico is a multicultural country. You have Puerto Ricans that are of European descent, that are of Asian descent, and also of African descent. So I feel that if Puerto Ricans and all Hispanics of different cultural backgrounds work together, especially to combat even prejudice within our own people, I think it's going to help us in the long run, because I feel that it's very important that Hispanics and Latinos need to work together regardless of what our ethnic background is, because regardless, all of us come from the same gene pool. Like Puerto Ricans, we are Taino, we are Spaniard, we are African, Mexicans, Dominicans, Cubans, South Americans, Central Americans, we're all the same people. So it's very important that we have to work together for the common good for our people
Yeah,
in the
but
United
we
States.
no, we can't work together because first they're using the word Hispanic literally means Spain and erases indigeneity and Africanness. And again, in Puerto Rico, what I call it is the one-third theory. We're one-third indigenous, one-third Spanish and one-third African, which is not the truth. If you look at the census from 1896 and then the 10 years later, 63% of the island were African descendant Black Puerto Ricans, right? So what happens in a lot of discussions about Latinos in general, people think we're all the monolith, or even people think all Puerto Ricans are the same. We're not. We're just not. And in this way.
Okay.
If
So
you're light, no, it's fine. Hold on, let me finish.
yeah, go ahead.
If
I'm
you're
sorry.
a light-skinned Puerto Rican, you're gonna get a job at the front of the desk. If you're an Afro-Boricua, they're gonna put you in the back.
Okay.
That and it's not the same as a caste system in Latin America, right? Like even Brazil has the largest black population outside of the African continent. In
And they
the rest,
also and they also have the largest European diaspora outside the continent
no,
as well
no,
of
because you're
Europe.
talking about 100 million Brazilians. You know what I'm saying? That like if you look to Brazil, right?
Right.
Everybody thinks Brazil is about Rio de Janeiro, but
Right.
nobody knows the other parts of Brazil that have majority Black Brazilians, African descendant, and how the government until this Lula, until the government, you know, kills, the way they raid Black African descendants all the time in Brazil. The fact that there are more Black Brazilian people shot by the police in Brazil. But
Right.
talking about Puerto Rico, and the reason I call it the one-third theory is because I write against that. And
Mhm.
because we as Black Puerto Ricans have always been erased
Mhm.
everywhere. So, you know, when somebody's like that one-third theory, you're then, or that person is erasing that we are African descendants and Black people.
Right.
And it's been a big situation in Puerto Rico, but now currently there's a new generation of young Afro-Black Latino Puerto Ricans on the island that are no longer afraid to be who they are or to go
Right.
somewhere. Puerto
Right.
Rico, it's hard in Puerto Rico, right? Because if we even talk about police violence, there is more violence against trans people and wives and girlfriends of the police. What we have when you go to Piñones or you go to Luisa or you go to La Plena, right?
La
Those are
Perla.
all like, thank you, La Perla. Those are all Black people. And
Right.
what we have done in Puerto Rico is self-contain ourselves. So Black Puerto Ricans do not feel comfortable all the time to go to Old San Juan. But us as in general Puerto Ricans, like that's not the all and be all. That's definitely like touristy kind of thing. So what I'm saying is people are really good at defending and holding down like, hey, we're one-third of everything. And we as Black Puerto Ricans, African descendants keep saying, we're not gonna like, I'm not gonna embrace my country's colonizer.
Right.
That's crazy. Like, why would we do that? I'm not gonna, and in Dominican Republic is a whole different
Oh
situation.
yeah,
Trujillo was a
that's majority
dictator. Yeah,
mixed
I
there.
mean, yeah, but no, they're not. Most Dominicans are Afro-Dominicans. And then what they have is anti-Blackness against Haitians. When you look at the
Yes.
Dominican Republic and you just study Trujillo, the dictator that was put there by the United States of
Yes.
America,
Yeah,
Trujillo used to,
Trujillo was
when,
considered the fascist Dominican Hitler of that time.
yeah. But also what he did, legit, he would put white powder on his face when he went and talked in the press. You could see it. And also he he put in a like an act in the not the Constitution, but what he did is he incentivized dark-skinned Dominicans marrying light-skinned Dominicans and blanquimiento, but he incentivized it in a way where if you improve the race, abur la raza, you would
Right.
get like a little bit of money if you
Right.
married someone that was lighter.
Yeah, and
And that
also
still
and
is
yeah,
to today.
and
Yeah.
also Dominican Republic at that time, during the Second World War, was one of the few countries, as other than Cuba, that gave incentives to a lot of European Jews to settle in Dominican Republic as part of the Blanqueamiento incentive. So that was part of it. But again, getting back to what I was telling you, I feel that especially in the United States, because I'm talking about exclusively in the United States, there is prejudice among our people. And I feel that unless we, put these differences aside and work together, I think there's going to be a divide and conquer. Because to be honest with you, Rosa, as far as the white supremacist structure in America is, it doesn't matter if a Latino, Hispanic is Afro-Latino, Euro-Latino, etc. They see them as all the same. So if they divide our people against each other, then there's not going to be any type of unity. So, like I was saying, Spanish United, and what we do is that we try
Yeah.
to get all Hispanic people, Latino people, regardless of what they are, to work together. And I
Yeah,
feel
but
that more power we have, we could do a lot to resolve a lot of our social issues that we have
the
within
way
our
we
own
could do that in
community.
the United States is to be not a country that treats us with anti-blackness and white supremacy. I'm not about uniting all our people. I'm about uniting around politics. So you could be a black Puerto Rican, whether in New York or Puerto Rico, and then if I go to a meeting and you're advocating for the 50 us to be the 51st state, I don't care how light or dark you are. I'm not gonna roll with you politically. You
Right,
can't have 65 million people, quote, Latinos in this country that we all get along or that we should all be united. That's to me that was something, in the 80s or the 90s. Look, if you're a black Dominican in New York or you're a black Puerto Rican in Chicago and you're rolling with your African American brothers and sisters, the police aren't going to be like, yo, wait, is everybody here Dominican? Oh, only one you leave, and we're only going to talk to these two African American people. If you look at Roberto Clemente in his career, when he came here, they made fun of his accent.
right,
And he said, as a black Puerto Rican, I never thought that I would be called the N-word. And when he was called the N-word, just like other black Puerto Rican men who were migrating there, the police didn't care that they were Puerto Rican. The police called them the N-word.
right,
And that trauma of consistently being that for our parents who migrated here and had no choice, or you could even see how Roberto Clemente was also vilified
right,
in like the New York Times, where they would be like, he can't even speak English. I
right.
mean, this whole part of his one of his long interviews
Yes,
where
I'm actually very familiar with Retro Commenta. I actually read that in his biography. I have one of his books, and I understand where you're coming from, Rosa. There is a lot of prejudice against Afro Latino, but at the same time, there's also prejudice against Euro Latinos. Like, for example, like myself, if you were to see me in person, you would think I'm Euro Latino, and I'm speaking with an American whitewash accent because my mom wanted me to be assimilated. I speak Spanish, but I speak English better than I do Spanish. I myself have been stopped by the police. I have been harassed by by prejudiced people, not really because of what I look like, but primarily because of my last name. So prejudice against Latinos in general in the United States is a big problem, especially in states where you don't have a visible Latino population. You see it a lot more. But again, like I was telling you, Rosa, I feel that Latinos in general all face discrimination, regardless if we are white presenting or black presenting. So like I was saying, regardless of what our
that's not
political.
true. It's just not true. You could read every report that's been coming out lately, whether it's UCLA with their report, Breaking Latinidad saying that Latinidad as an academic political choice erases blackness. You could see the Pew Research and all the research that they've done that one quarter of us, if we were able to fill on the census our race, 6 million of us in this country, 1 out of 4 are Afro-Black Latinx. If you even look at how, even in wages, it's just not true. Look, bro, let me tell you this right now. My mom is white as white. So I get what you're saying. When they know that you're not white, like European white, you will face discrimination. But what we're talking with Black, African descendant Latinx in this country, we have to deal with white supremacy. We have to deal with colorism. But every report, because I've read them all, shows how Afro Black Latinx people in this country are not only facing discrimination from other light skinned Latinos, we face anti Blackness. And it is what
Absolutely.
it is. You know, it's
And I
like
agree with
that's
you.
what colonization. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you know,
And like I told you,
there's privilege of being a light-skinned Latino.
right,
Like
of
that's just
course.
true.
And I also encourage my Afro-Latino listeners and people that have gone through discrimination, hey, if you're going through a situation, contact us, contact Spanish United, tell your story. That's what we do. Aside from doing nonprofit work and charity work and civil rights work, we also like to talk to people to talk about their stories because in many cases, a lot of their stories are not heard. And that's what's very important as a podcaster journalist, that I like to present what's going on within the community, not just within the Euro light skin mestizo population, but also with the darker indigenous, many cases Afro Latino, so that way their stories can be heard. I do it all the time. Hello.
Not here. I
Oh,
mean,
okay, okay. I
not
thought I
here.
thought you
Yeah.
I thought you disappeared.
No,
But
I still don't.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's what I strive to do. Well, anyway, I know that the interview was a little bit behind schedule, but I do have to go. But I want to tell you, Miss Rosa, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate your time, and for your listeners that are listening. Spanish United podcast is on social media platforms. We are on Spanish United YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Anyone that wants to donate is are able to donate. We are a nonprofit organization, 501, 503. Anything that anyone donates is used to help the community. And as soon as I finish, I will email you the link and you could share it with all of your colleagues. And again, thank you so much for your time, Miss Clemente. I truly,
Yeah, and
truly
you know
appreciate
what?
it.
I think like this type of conversation where people could have like debates and not be crazy like the rest of the country. This is like, we're such an divided people, all of us, and I find it critically important that we should have debate or differences
Oh,
and be able to do them
absolutely.
civilly. And this is like one of those things. But generally, right now, as you probably know, like people are just in their bubble of like everything that they say is what everyone else is facing,
Right, of
as opposed to
course.
being like, have the debate, like let's talk about it. We don't have to, be nasty or just shut someone down because they have differences in politics in general, especially with Boricuas, so
Exactly.
this kind of
Exactly.
conversation is
I agree with you
exactly what
100%. That's why it's very
young people need
important.
to hear. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's why it's very important to have dialogue.
yeah,
So again, like I
absolutely.
said, I gotta get going, but we will definitely
Okay,
keep in touch. Thank you so much, Miss Clemente. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon.
thank you, you too.
Too. Bye bye.